The stars over Earth were silent, too silent. From the dark side of the moon, the Human Defense Command watched something move in the distance. It wasn't an asteroid. It wasn't space debris. It was a fleet, hundreds of glowing ships sliding through the black sky, their engines burning with a cold blue fire. Inside the observation deck of the Titan control station, Commander Elias Grant's eyes were locked on the screens. With every passing second, new blips appeared on the radar. More ships than anyone had ever seen before. The invasion fleet was coming. "Contact in 70 minutes, an operator said, her voice shaking. "They're forming a wall, straight toward Earth orbit." Elias didn't move. He'd seen war before, but never like this. These weren't pirates or some rival colony faction. These were the Threxian Armada, a terrifying race that had already annihilated 5 human colonies in just 2 years. Now they were here, at the very doorstep of humanity's homeworld. The room was heavy with the hum of machines. The crew looked to their commander, their faces etched with fear, waiting for an order. "Open a communication channel," Elias said, his voice a calm anchor in the rising storm. The operator blinked, stunned. "Sir, you're going to talk to them?" "Yes," Elias replied firmly. "One last time." A moment later, the main screen flickered to life. An image materialized from the static, a tall, imposing alien with skin like polished metal and eyes that glowed with orange fire. His armor reflected the distant starlight. "This is Commander Var Keth of the Threxian Armada." The alien's voice thundered through the bridge. "Humanity, your time is over. We will cleanse your world and claim it for the Dominion." Elias stepped forward, his reflection meeting the alien's gaze on the screen. "This is Commander Elias Grant of Earth Defense Command," he said, his voice steady and unyielding. "You are trespassing in human territory. You have already destroyed 5 of our colonies. You will not destroy a 6th. Turn back now or face consequences you cannot imagine." The alien let out a cold, deep laugh. "We do not fear you, human. Your fleets are weak. Your worlds are dying. What consequences can you possibly offer?" Elias's expression remained a mask of iron. "You will learn soon enough." The connection cut, plunging the command room back into silence. Lieutenant Vega turned to him. "Sir, was that really a warning?" "They won't listen." Elias looked at the beautiful, fragile blue marble of Earth hanging below. "It wasn't for them," he said quietly. "It was for us." Across Earth's orbit, massive hidden stations began to power up. Silent for decades, their weapon systems came alive with light. Project Aegis, Earth's ultimate defense grid, was awake. Deep below the surface, families huddled in bunkers, watching emergency broadcasts. News anchors spoke in trembling voices while soldiers prepared in stoic silence. In the vast emptiness of space, the Threxian fleet slowed. They had received the human transmission and dismissed it as a pathetic bluff. On his flagship, Var Keth gave the order. "Prepare for orbital bombardment, destroy their satellites first." But then, something impossible happened. The stars blinked. One by one, hundreds of tiny lights flickered into existence, surrounding the Threxian ships. They were not stars. They were human war drones, moving in perfect, deadly formation. "Multiple contacts," shouted a Threxian officer. "They're surrounding us." Var Keth narrowed his glowing eyes. Impossible. They could not have built so many. His thought was cut short as a transmission sliced through their channel. It was Elias's voice, calm and sharp. "This is your final warning, Threxian commander. Leave our skies." The alien sneered. "You think these pathetic machines will stop us?" Elias replied, "No, they're just the beginning." At that exact moment, every drone activated its energy core. Thousands of red lights blazed across the darkness, forming a giant glowing ring around the invading armada. And then, from behind the moon, humanity's true strength revealed itself. Battle Group Atlas, a formation of colossal warships built in secret after the first colony was lost, emerged from the shadows. The Threxians froze. They had fatally underestimated the humans. "Sir," Vega said, her voice a quiet whisper. They're hesitating. Elias's voice grew colder. Good. Let them think. Fear is the first step to survival. The void between the two armadas crackled with tension, the universe itself holding its breath. Then, on the Threxian flagship, a single cannon began to charge, spilling bright orange light across space. "They're locking weapons," Vega shouted. Elias took a deep breath, his eyes narrowing. "Then we're done talking." He turned to the communication console and spoke 4 words that would ignite the greatest battle humanity had ever fought. "Activate the Aegis protocol." In an instant, Earth's orbit exploded with light as hundreds of defense platforms fired as one. The first shots of the war had been fired. The final warning had been ignored. And somewhere deep in the control station, Elias whispered to himself, "They wanted a war. Now they'll see what humanity truly is." The first blast hit like thunder. Across the silence of space, beams of white light tore through the darkness. One moment the stars were calm. The next, they were burning. The Aegis defense grid had awakened. Hundreds of orbital cannons fired in unison, turning night into day above the Earth. The Threxian Armada, once so confident, was now surrounded by light, fire, and death. From the control deck of Titan Station, Commander Elias Grant watched the chaos unfold. The floor shook with the recoil of their own weapons. "Status report," he shouted over the din. "Enemy ships hit in the front lines. Multiple explosions detected," cried Lieutenant Vega. "But sir, they're not retreating." Elias's jaw tightened. "Of course not," he muttered. "They've never seen us fight for our home." On the Threxian flagship, Commander Varketh roared in anger as his vessel trembled. "Return fire! Wipe them out!" he commanded. Thousands of plasma bolts filled the void, painting the sky orange. The Threxian weapons cut through human formations. One human frigate vanished in a silent, blinding burst of light. "Ship Endeavor is gone, sir," Vega reported, her voice cracking. "We've lost contact with 3 defense platforms." Elias stared at the monitors, at the faces of brave men and women fighting on every screen. "Tell all stations, hold the line," he said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were cold as ice. Down on Earth, people stood in the streets watching strange lights dance above the clouds. They thought it was a celestial show, until the emergency alerts blared. In bunkers and shelters, parents held their children close, as soldiers prepared for the worst. Meanwhile, on the moon base, Helios, Captain Mara Lee received her orders. She was in charge of Earth's hidden knife, the Aegis Spear, a new secret weapon. Her team waited inside their silent warship, Odyssey, its engines dark to avoid detection. "Commander Grant has given the word," she said softly, her eyes fixed on the holographic map. "Aegis protocol is active." Her second-in-command grinned nervously. "So it begins." Mara's gaze didn't waver. "No, this is only the first chapter." She turned toward the window. "Power up the spear." Back in orbit, the Threxian fleet pushed forward, their massive cannons tearing through Earth's first line of defense. "Human resistance is stronger than expected," an alien officer reported. Varketh slammed his fist on the console. "They are animals with metal toys, crush them." But suddenly, alarms screamed across the alien bridge. "Sir, energy surge detected behind us." Varketh turned and saw it. From behind the moon, a colossal light emerged. Not a star, not a ship, but a weapon, a massive railgun, hidden for years, now pointed directly at them. Mara's voice cut through the comms. "Target locked. Charging sequence complete." From Titan Station, Elias heard her. "Captain Lee," he said quietly, "show them what humans build when they're desperate." Mara smiled faintly. "With pleasure, sir." The Aegis spear fired. For a heartbeat, the universe seemed to stop. Then, a beam of pure energy, brighter than the sun, sliced through space. It passed clean through 3 Threxian battleships before they could even react. Explosions rippled through the enemy ranks, sending debris flying across orbit. The human command room erupted in cheers. "They hit them! The spear hit them!" Vega shouted, her eyes wide with disbelief. Elias only nodded. "Good, but it's not over." He was right. Even burning, even broken, the Threxians did not flee. Their flagship, damaged but alive, turned slowly. So, the humans do bite, Commander Varketh growled. Then we will bite harder. Send in the boarding fleets. Target their command stations. I want their leader's head. Moments later, red lights flashed across Titan Station's consoles. Sir! Multiple small vessels approaching fast, Vega shouted. Elias looked out the window and saw them. Black shapes cutting through the void like knives. Boarding pods. Prepare interior defenses, he barked. They're coming here. Explosions rocked the station as the pods crashed into the hull. The battle had moved from the stars to the hallways. Elias drew his pistol. They wanted to see Earth's courage, he said quietly. Let's give them a front row seat. Outside, the sky above Earth still burned. Humanity's home was under siege, but it refused to fall. Sir, how long can we hold them? Vega asked, her voice trembling. Elias reloaded his weapon and answered without a moment's hesitation. As long as it takes. The alarms wailed, echoing through the metal halls. The enemy had landed, and far above the Earth, amid the fire and smoke, the stars watched, silent witnesses to a war that was only just beginning. The alarms shrieked through every corridor of Titan Station. Red lights pulsed against cold steel walls as the entire station trembled from the echo of explosions. In the control center, Commander Elias Grant's eyes were locked on the monitors. Alien pods, like deadly metal seeds, were crashing into the outer hull. Seal sections B through F, he ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos. And get those civilians to the escape decks, now. Lieutenant Vega's head snapped up. Yes, sir, but the enemy's already breached Deck 7. Elias turned to the massive window. Outside, a brutal space battle raged. Below it all, Earth hung in the darkness, a fragile blue marble, while fire and shrapnel rained down from orbit. He whispered, his voice tight, "We can't let them through." Deep inside the damaged hallways, Earth soldiers braced for what was coming. They were exhausted, outnumbered, but their faces were set like iron. The rhythmic clang of boots and the clicking of rifles echoed in the narrow corridors. Private Kara Holt, just 21 years old, clutched her weapon, her knuckles white. Her hands shook, but her gaze was steady. She glanced at the sergeant beside her. "Sir, what if they're stronger than us?" The sergeant offered a grim smile. "Then we aim for their heads and make them regret landing here." Suddenly, the steel door at the end of the hall exploded inward. A Threxian warrior stepped through the smoke and debris. It was tall, encased in dark armor that glowed with an ominous orange energy. A mechanical, guttural growl filled the corridor, a sound of pure hatred. "Fire!" the sergeant yelled. The hallway erupted in a storm of bullets and plasma bolts. The alien roared as sparks flew from its armor, then it crashed to the floor, smoke rising from its chest. Kara blinked, her heart pounding. "We got one." The sergeant smirked. "Welcome to the war, kid." Back in the command center, Elias watched the station's security feeds. Dozens of red dots, enemy forces, were spreading through the station like a virus. "They're moving fast," Vega said, his voice strained. "If they reach the reactor, the whole station goes up." Elias nodded, his jaw set. "Then we make our stand there." He hit the station-wide intercom, his voice booming through every deck. "All remaining units fall back to the reactor chamber. Hold the line. This station will not fall while a single human breathes." Meanwhile, aboard the Threxian flagship, Commander Varketh observed the chaos with cold satisfaction. "Report," he demanded. An officer replied, "Human resistance is heavy, but our boarding units are advancing. Their leader, Elias Grant, is still alive." Varketh's eyes burned brighter. "Good. I want him captured. I will break their spirit through him." He turned toward the stars, hissing in his harsh alien tongue. "They think they are strong. They have forgotten what fear truly is." On Titan Station, the last defenders gathered near the reactor. Its massive core pulsed like a giant, glowing heart, casting long shadows across the dark chamber. Elias arrived, pistol in hand. "Sir," Vega said, "we're ready." but the power levels are unstable. If a stray shot hits the core..." Elias cut him off. "Then make every shot count." Moments later, the bulkhead doors blew open. The aliens poured in, roaring, their plasma blades igniting the room with orange fire. The battle was brutal, fought at close quarters. Humans fired from behind cover as the air filled with smoke and the smell of ozone. Kara ducked as a plasma bolt seared the wall beside her. "We're surrounded," she screamed. But Elias's voice rang out over the chaos. "No, they're surrounded." He tapped his wrist communicator. "Now!" From deep within the walls, hidden defense turrets rose and unleashed a torrent of fire. The aliens shrieked as bullets and plasma tore through their ranks. One by one, they fell. When the shooting stopped, the chamber was silent, filled with smoke. Vega lowered his weapon. "We did it," he breathed. Elias looked at the carnage. "For now," he said quietly. "They'll send more." Just then, the radio crackled. It was Captain Mara Lee from the Odyssey. "Commander Grant, this is Captain Lee. We've detected a massive energy buildup in the enemy flagship. It looks like a superweapon." Elias froze. "A superweapon?" "Yes, sir. Big enough to punch through the planet's surface." Elias turned to the window, to the innocent blue world below. His voice was calm, but heavy as lead. "They're going to fire on Earth." Vega's voice was a whisper. "Sir, what do we do?" Elias looked at his crew, his soldiers, and then back at Earth. A new fire lit in his eyes. "We take the fight to them," he said. "Prepare the jump ships. We're going to their flagship." Vega stared at him. "That's suicide, sir." "Maybe," Elias replied, loading a fresh clip into his rifle. "But if humanity burns, we burn fighting." Minutes later, small human strike ships launched from the battered station, flying straight into the jaws of the enormous Threxian flagship. The battle for orbit had just turned into a desperate, fearless charge. On his bridge, Varketh turned to his crew. "Incoming human vessels, what are they doing?" The alien officer's voice trembled. "Sir, they're attacking us directly." Varketh grinned, baring metallic teeth. "Then let them come. Let them die with honor." The void of space lit up once more, but this time it was the light of human ships, cutting a path toward the heart of the enemy. For the first time, the Threxians saw humanity not running, not hiding, but charging headfirst toward the impossible. The human strike ships cut through the smoke of battle like silver arrows. Behind them, the burning remains of Titan Station glowed red against the black sky. Ahead, the enormous shadow of the Threxian flagship, a city-sized fortress, drifted toward Earth. Commander Elias Grant sat in the cockpit of the lead shuttle. The metal around him rattled with each blast. Alarms blinked red, but his eyes stayed calm. "Target in sight," said Lieutenant Vega, his hands tight on the controls. Elias nodded. "Stay low." We slip under their sensors and head for the hangar bay. Through the window, they saw it. A massive gate of steel and fire. Enemy cannons spat blue plasma, but the small ships weaved between the shots like angry insects. "Shields down to 40%, Vega shouted. "Just get us in," Elias said. "Once we're inside, we fight on our terms." The shuttle dove through the smoke, engines screaming. A final burst of thrusters, and then it crashed hard inside the alien hangar. The doors sealed behind them. Silence. Only the hiss of leaking air. "Everyone out," Elias barked. Human soldiers poured from the shuttle, weapons ready. The air was thick and cold, carrying a strange metallic smell. The floor glowed faintly under their boots, alien metal, alive with energy. Private Kara Holt looked around nervously. "Sir, it feels like the ship is breathing." Elias gave a short nod. "Then we cut off its lungs." They moved quickly through the corridors. The alien walls pulsed with light, showing veins of power running through them, energy flowing toward the heart of the ship. "That's our path," Vega whispered. "The power lines lead straight to their weapon core." Elias raised his rifle. Then we follow the light. Far above them in the flagship's control room, Commander Varketh watched the human intruders on his holographic screen. So, he said softly, the humans have come to die in my house. His officer looked uncertain. Sir, should we deploy more guards? Varketh's eyes burned. No, let them come closer. I want to meet their leader myself. He turned toward the window, the blue curve of Earth shining below. They think courage can stop destiny. Back in the corridors, the human team moved like shadows. They passed rooms filled with alien machinery, glowing tubes, strange symbols, tanks full of moving liquid. Kara stopped for a moment, staring at one of the tanks. Inside floated something that looked almost human, but not quite. Pale skin, long limbs, and empty eyes. What is that? She whispered. Vega frowned. Experiments. Maybe prisoners. Elias's voice was hard. Don't look, keep moving. But inside his stomach turned. The Threxians hadn't just come to conquer. They had been studying humans. After 20 long minutes, they reached a giant circular door. It hummed with power. This must be it, Vega said. The weapon core. Elias placed his hand on the scanner. Set the charges. We blow it and run. As the soldiers placed explosives, a deep voice echoed through the chamber. Leaving already, human? Everyone froze. From the shadows, Varketh stepped forward. Towering, armored, his eyes burning like molten fire. His energy blade ignited with a hiss. Elias raised his rifle. You should have stayed in orbit. The alien smiled. You should have stayed on your planet. Then he lunged. The chamber erupted in chaos. Bullets sparked off Varketh's armor as he swung his blade, slicing through consoles and walls. Vega fired his rifle, Kara threw a plasma grenade, and the air filled with blinding light. Varketh roared as the blast knocked him back. You think you can stop the Dominion? Elias charged forward, firing point blank. We're not here to stop you, he shouted. We're here to end you. He hit the alien square in the chest. The armor cracked. For a second, Varketh staggered. But then he struck back, his blade grazing Elias's arm. Pain shot through him, but he didn't fall. He pulled out a combat knife, jammed it into the alien's armor, and whispered, Humanity doesn't kneel. With one final push, he drove the knife deep into the glowing joint of the alien's chest. Varketh roared, a sound that shook the ship, then fell to his knees. Elias stepped back, breathing hard. Detonate it. Vega hit the trigger. The charges exploded. A brilliant flash of white swallowed the chamber. In orbit, the watching fleets saw the flagship's center explode in a burst of blue fire. The shockwave rippled through the Threxian ships. On the Odyssey, Captain Mara Lee shouted, They did it! The flagship's core is destabilizing. Signal Titan Station, an officer said. Mara's face fell. Titan Station is gone, but Earth still stands. She watched the burning enemy ship break apart, whispering, Hold on, Elias. Please tell me you made it out. Inside the wreckage, Vega and Kara dragged Elias through the collapsing corridor toward their shuttle. The floor shook violently, flames chasing them. Go! Elias yelled, pushing them forward. They jumped inside just as the ship tore in half. The shuttle shot out into the void, engines burning bright. Behind them, the Threxian flagship exploded, a sun blooming in the darkness. The humans watched in silence as the light faded. Kara finally whispered, We did it. Elias looked at Earth far below, safe for now, and said quietly, No, we survived. There's a difference. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, the stars were silent. The Threxian flagship, a symbol of their terrifying power, was gone. Nothing but burning fragments now, drifting through the cold vacuum of space like dying embers. Inside our small shuttle, I sat strapped to my seat, my arm throbbing with pain, my eyes fixed on the beautiful, fragile blue planet below. Earth. Lieutenant Vega piloted us through the debris field, his voice cutting through the quiet hum of the shuttle. We're clear of the blast zone, sir. We did it. We actually did it. His words hung in the air, but I couldn't share his relief. My gaze remained cold, thoughtful. No, I said, the word feeling heavy. We won a battle, not the war. From the back, Private Kara Holt looked up, her voice soft but trembling with a mix of fear and hope. "But their leader's dead, sir. Their ships are retreating." I turned my head just enough to meet her gaze. "Look closer, Holt. They're not retreating. They're regrouping." And just as I said it, we saw them. Far in the distance, pinpricks of light began to gather around the wreckage of their flagship. Smaller vessels, but hundreds of them. Vega swallowed hard. "Sir, there are still so many of them out there." I nodded grimly. "And they'll be back. For revenge." Down on Earth, the sky glowed with the faint red aftermath of the battle. People emerged from shelters, their faces turned upward. Some wept. Others stood in stunned silence as news flashed across every screen. Human fleet destroys alien flagship. Earth safe, for now. In command centers deep underground, world leaders and generals watched the same reports. You could feel the relief, but it was thin, stretched over a deep well of fear. "What happens when they send more?" one of them asked. The quiet reply came from another. "Then we fight again." Aboard the fleet's pride, the Odyssey, Captain Mara Lee watched the last Threxian ships warp away. Her crew was battered, bruised, but alive. She turned to her comms officer, her voice sharp. "Has Commander Grant's team made contact yet?" "No signal, ma'am. They were last seen near the enemy core before the explosion." Mara's jaw tightened. "Search every frequency. I don't care how long it takes." The bridge was tense for what felt like hours. Then a crackle. "This is Commander Grant. We're alive." Cheers erupted. Mara let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding, a faint smile touching her lips. "Good to hear your voice, Commander. Get your team back here." "You've earned a rest," I replied through the static, my voice tired but firm. "Rest sounds nice, but I don't think we'll get much of it." Hours later, we landed in the Odyssey's hangar. The doors hissed open to a roar of applause. My arm was bandaged, my uniform scorched, but my eyes were sharp, scanning the faces of our comrades. Mara met me halfway, shaking my hand. "Welcome back, hero," she said. I managed a small, tired smile. "Heroes get statues. I just want answers." Her brow furrowed. "Answers." I looked past her, toward the star-dusted viewport. The Threxians didn't just come here to destroy us. They were searching for something. We saw human bodies on that ship, or clones. They've been studying us. Mara's smile vanished. "Studying us? Why?" "That's what I need to find out," I said, "and something tells me this is far from over." Later, in the ship's lab, Vega and Kara pored over the data we ripped from the flagship's core moments before it blew. The screen flickered with alien symbols. Kara frowned, leaning closer. "It looks like coordinates." "Coordinates to what?" Vega asked. She zoomed in, her eyes widening in disbelief. "They lead to a system outside our chart range, a place the Threxians called the Origin Gate." Vega looked at her, the question hanging in the air. Kara whispered, "Maybe. It's where they came from." I stood alone on the observation deck, watching the sunrise paint a brilliant line across Earth's curve. The light reflected in my eyes like a distant fire. Mara approached quietly. "You should rest. You've been awake for 30 hours. I didn't move. "When I was a kid," I said softly, "my father told me the stars were full of wonders. He never mentioned they were full of monsters, too." She stood beside me. "We survived. That's what matters." I finally turned to face her. "For now, but survival isn't victory. Not until they're gone for good." She held my gaze, then looked back at the dawn breaking over our world. "Then we find their origin gate." I nodded slowly. "And we finish what they started." But far beyond our reach, in the blackness of deep space, a dark signal pulsed. It traveled from ship to ship, through hidden relays until it reached a massive, terrifying structure orbiting a dying red sun. This was the Threxian War Council. A towering figure, his armor darker than the void and his eyes burning like cosmic fire, stepped forward. His voice rumbled through the chamber. The humans destroyed Varketh. He paused. Good. Another alien, smaller, bowed his head. Good, my lord. The tall one smiled, a cruel, sharp grin. Because now, they have our full attention. The chamber shook with the sound of alien war drums. Across the Threxian fleet, new ships began to awaken, larger, faster, and far more deadly than anything we had ever faced. The war wasn't over. It had just begun. See you on the front lines. 3 months have passed since the Battle of Earth. The skies are calm again, but peace feels thin, like glass that could shatter at any second. Inside the orbiting warship Odyssey, Commander Elias Grant stands in the strategy room, staring at a map of distant stars. Glowing on the screen is a single red mark, coordinates taken from the wreckage of the Threxian flagship. Captain Mara Lee steps beside him. So that's it, she says quietly. The origin gate. Elias nods, his expression grim. Whatever it is, the Threxians wanted to keep it secret, and that means it's dangerous. Lieutenant Vega leans over the console, skepticism written on her face. Sir, with all due respect, we don't even know if it's real. That sector isn't on any human chart. There are no signals, no light, just empty space. Elias's voice is calm but firm. Then we'll find out what's hiding there. The journey begins 2 days later. 3 ships, the Odyssey, the Vanguard, and the Helios, slip through the silent dark of hyperspace, leaving the safety of Earth far behind them. On the observation deck, Private Kara Holt watches the stars twist and blur outside her window. Feels like we're sailing into a ghost story, she whispers to herself. Vega, passing by, offers a faint smile. Maybe ghosts are easier to fight than aliens. But when the ships finally drop out of hyperspace, no one is smiling. They've arrived at the coordinates, but just as Vega predicted, there are no planets, no suns, only a deep black void. And floating in that endless dark is a gigantic structure, a ring miles wide, its edges glowing with a faint blue light. The origin gate. Mara stares at it in awe. My God. It's not built, it's grown. The scanners immediately flicker with strange, impossible readings. The metal, it's healing itself, Vega reports, her voice filled with disbelief. It's alive. Elias feels a cold shiver run down his spine. Alive. And waiting. They move the fleet closer. As the Odyssey's lights touch the ring's surface, it ripples like disturbed water. A deep hum fills the air, so low it vibrates through their very bones. Suddenly the gate pulses. A wave of energy spreads outward, freezing every system on board for a terrifying moment. The Odyssey's lights flicker and die, then slowly return. Power surge, Vega shouts. Something's linking with our computers. Cut the connection now, Mara orders. But it's too late. Before they can react, the main screen comes alive with symbols, Threxian letters shifting and rewriting themselves into human text. Welcome, children of Earth. We have been waiting. The bridge goes silent. Kara whispers, her voice trembling. It knows who we are. Elias steps forward, his gaze fixed on the screen. Who are you? He asks quietly. The letters change again. We are the Makers. We created the Threxians. And you. The crew freezes, a wave of shock washing over them. What? Vega mutters. That's impossible. Elias's jaw tightens. Explain, he demands. The screen fills with images, galaxies forming, worlds rising from dust, and 2 species born under the same stars, humans and Threxians. The voice continues, calm and ancient. We shaped both races to test survival. 2 branches of one design, one born of hope, one of hunger. When the stronger survives, the next era begins. Kara's hands are shaking. They made us like experiments. A cold anger rises in Elias's chest. So all this, every war, every death was just a test? Yes, the voice replies, and the final test begins now. Suddenly the gate flares with a blinding white light. Alarms blare as immense gravitational waves hit the ships. Space itself seems to tear open inside the ring, revealing another galaxy on the other side. Vega shouts, "It's opening a passage! Sir, readings are off the scale." From within the gate, hundreds of Threxian ships emerge, new, faster, sharper, their hulls burning with an aggressive red light. Mara gasps. They were waiting inside. The comms burst alive with a deep, chillingly familiar voice, Varketh's tone cold and strong. Elias's eyes widen. "He's alive," the alien's voice echoes through every ship. "Humans, you followed the signal just as the Makers wished. Welcome to the beginning of your extinction." Elias clenches his fists. Not today. He turns to his crew, his voice ringing with defiance. "Arm all weapons, form the line. If this is another test, we'll give them an answer they'll never forget." Outside the windows, the black sky lights up again as both fleets prepare for battle. Earth's 3 ships, small and scarred, face the endless red wave of Threxian warships. In the center, the Origin Gate pulses like a living heart, half alive, half machine, watching its creations prepare to destroy each other. Mara whispers, "Sir, even if we win, what then?" Elias looks at her, his eyes like steel. "Then we find the ones who built this, and we end their games." The comms operator counts down the closing distance. 10 kilometers, 5, 2. Elias raises his hand. Fire. Space explodes in light once again, and the second war for humanity's future begins. The stars burned red with war. Before the shimmering veil of the Origin Gate, 2 fleets, human and Threxian, tore the void apart. Explosions bloomed like silent, deadly flowers. Aboard the flagship Odyssey, Commander Elias Grant held onto a console as the deck plates shuddered. Another plasma bolt had slammed against their shields. "Status report," he barked, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Keep the line steady." Captain Mara Lee's face, tense and pale, appeared on his screen. "Helios is taking heavy fire, sir. Their shields are failing. They can't hold much longer." "Tell them to fall back behind the vanguard," Elias commanded. "We're not losing another ship if we can help it." Across the battlefield, a new shadow emerged. The Threxian flagship, a monstrous vessel of jagged, dark metal, eclipsed the distant stars. Its red energy core pulsed like the heart of a vengeful god. Then, a voice cut through every channel, cold and metallic. It was Varketh, the Threxian overlord. "You cannot stop what was started," he broadcasted. "The Makers watch us both. They decide who survives." Just as he finished speaking, the Origin Gate erupted. A wave of pure, white light washed over everything, blinding sensors and searing retinas. For a moment, the battle ceased, frozen in an impossible silence. When vision returned, the universe had changed. A new shape hung within the gate, not a ship, but something. Alive. Its surface was smooth, silver and rippled as if it were breathing light. Vega, our chief science officer, whispered in awe, "Sir, the readings are impossible. It's not metal. It's matter we don't even have names for." Then, a voice bloomed in the minds of every soul on the battlefield, human and Threxian alike. It was ancient, vast, and carried the weight of eternity. "Children of the Makers, the cycle nears completion." Elias felt the words resonate within his own thoughts, a violation more profound than any weapon. "You have both grown from our seed," the voice continued. "But only one may continue. Prove your worth, or be erased." The war was a test, a cosmic trial by fire. But then something unexpected happened. Varketh's flagship broke formation. A private channel hissed open. "Elias Grant," the Threxian's voice rasped, stripped of its earlier arrogance. "We both bleed. We both lose soldiers. The Makers want us to destroy each other. Perhaps that is their true test." Elias stared at the enemy he had spent a lifetime hating. Now he saw not a monster, but a soldier. Just like him. "You're suggesting we fight them instead," Elias said, the words feeling heavy in the air. "Yes," Varketh replied. "For once, Humans and Threxians, side by side. Elias took a long, deep breath, the fate of two species resting on his shoulders. Then let's give our creators a show they didn't expect. For the first time in history, human and Threxian warships turned as one. Their weapons, once aimed at each other, now targeted the magnificent, terrible being in the origin gate. Our targeting systems linked, our firepower combined. The being reacted. Its serene glow turned a furious blood red as shields of pure energy flared to life. "Keep firing!" Mara shouted, her voice a rallying cry. "Hit the core!" Every laser, missile, and cannon from both fleets unleashed its fury in a single, coordinated volley. The sky went white once more. In the heart of that storm, Elias, Mara, and Vega boarded a small attack shuttle. They dove headfirst into the blinding surface of the gate. The shuttle screamed as it punched through the unknown material, and suddenly, they were inside. They found themselves in a vast chamber filled with floating orbs of light. At the center hovered a glowing, ethereal figure, a god made of starlight. "You disobey your purpose," its voice echoed in their minds. "You were not made to question. You were made to prove." Elias raised his plasma rifle. "Then we've proved enough." He fired. The bolt of energy struck the figure's core. It didn't scream in pain, but in sheer, unadulterated shock. The entire chamber began to shake and collapse around them. "Run!" Vega yelled. They scrambled back to the shuttle, escaping just as the entire gate began to implode. Outside, the battlefield watched in stunned silence as the origin gate shattered like glass. The explosion devoured all light before vanishing into nothing. The comms were quiet for a long, breathless moment. Then, a single Threxian voice broke the silence. "It's over. The Makers are gone." Elias looked out at the stars. They seemed clearer, brighter. Free. Mara managed a weak smile. "So, what now?" Elias watched as the Threxian and human fleets, still poised for battle, slowly lowered their weapons. "Now," he said, a sense of profound purpose settling over him. "We build a future that belongs to us. No gods, no creators, just us." Weeks later, a fragile peace, the Unity Accord, was signed. From the bridge of his ship, Elias watched a newborn star ignite in a distant nebula. He whispered to himself, maybe that was the real test, not who wins, but who learns to stand together. And far, far away beyond the known galaxy, a tiny spark of light blinked once in the endless dark, as if something ancient still watched, waiting for the next chapter of creation to begin. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the stars.